Hi guys, welcome back to my now existing channel. As you read the title of today's video is going to be letting Christian YouTubers choose the books that I read. I'm so excited, guys. I know I always say that, but this video is especially exciting because I look up to these YouTubers. I love them. I admire their content. I think they're awesome. They're super special and inspirational. There are a few Christian YouTubers that I watch, and I came up with 29 of them to DM. I sent some out last night and some out this morning because I really want them to see my DM. I really want them to answer. The likelihood of them answering is like super low because I currently have only a few followers on Instagram. I just started that Instagram account. I am going to use it more for sure. For the YouTubers who have 100K on Instagram and up, I decided to DM them in the morning around 9 a.m. Eastern time because I know that's usually the time where they check their socials, right? For the YouTubers that have 100K or less, I DM'd them last night. As I kept writing them, if another YouTuber who had 100K or less came to mind and I had forgotten to text them yesterday, I said I was going to DM them today in the morning along with the rest of the YouTubers, if that makes sense. Anyways, let me just cut short the talk. The reason why I started to film this video mainly is because I already got 2 responses. Guys, you should have seen my reaction when I found out that Jess Conti answered my DM. I was like, I mean, Jess Conti probably understands because she was an equal fangirl as me, you know? We both were big, huge fangirls of boy bands. Hers One Direction and then me, Why Don't We? She understands that fangirl moment. She's probably the first Christian YouTuber that I've ever watched for the longest. The next one that responded was Celestria, so that was super exciting. I'm gonna open it live here. I was gonna wait till all of them went in, but I can't contain my excitement. So far, I see that Celestria liked a message, but I'm not sure if she commented and then liked the message or she just liked the message and didn't respond, but let's check. She did respond. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. She said, "Hey Allison, thank you so much. I recommend Finding Lady, Enderly by Joanna Davidson Politano. It's one of my most recent favorites and a standalone. Hopefully you haven't read that one already, but if you have, I can recommend something else. What's your channel name? I'd love to sub." Oh my gosh, she's so sweet. Oh my gosh. Let me just respond first. Then she read that so fast. I get self-conscious all the time. Okay. She said, "Yay." Guys, one of the biggest struggles of being a small YouTuber, and let me know if you relate to this if you're a current striving YouTuber. I don't really get the fear of rejection. I get mostly the fear of judgment. I'm always scared of big YouTubers looking at my channel because I feel like their channel is amazing and then compared to mine, it's like kind of cringy. But you know what? I just think about it this way. Everyone starts and everyone, when they start, aren't completely the greatest. So I'm in that stage right now. I'm so happy that I'm just getting lots of support. The YouTube family is just so amazing. I love YouTube. I've always have. And it's always been a dream just to make videos. And I think that's how come the connection works, because I'm just someone who likes making videos and you're someone who likes making videos. Plus, we're people who love the Lord. So let's read Jess's now. She said, "Oh, Allison, I love this. Have you read One True Loves? If you haven't, I really enjoyed that." Oh, okay. I'm so excited. No, I haven't read that one. So let's respond to her. "I'm looking forward to reading it, or I'm looking forward to read it." That's what happens when your first language is Spanish. My first language is Spanish, so I have a hard time writing in English, but at the same time, I speak so much English now that I'm not the greatest in Spanish. So, do you feel me if you speak 2 languages? I'm looking forward to reading it. I knew it. Yay! So we have 2. I almost sent a voice message by accident. We have 2 books now. I'm gonna jot them down actually and write their names. One True Love. Let me search up the author. Oh, I'm that type of girl who's not in the TikTok popular book reading era. I read some popular books, but literally I'm open to reading anything. This woman in Target recommended me to read, I don't have the book here, right? A Stranger in a Lifeboat. And she talked about it. She was so passionate about it that I bought it because I'm like, she's so passionate about it. Let me see what the hype is. The point is, I don't just read popular books. I read whatever books you have. Because if it were someone else, they probably would have already read it. Is this my first Taylor Jenkins read? I think this might be my first Taylor Jenkins read. I know she's the one that wrote The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo or something like that. And she also wrote that one book that Haley fam talked about, which is that tennis player. Carrie Soto is back. Okay, but I'm excited because I haven't read One True Loves yet. So Finding Lady Enderly. We have 2 books so far. I will definitely update you the next time once the whole week waiting passes. Thank you so much, Celestia and Jess. For real. Sending you lots of love. No way. Ashlyn Gabelli answered my comment. She said, "Hi. Oh my gosh, I haven't checked my DMs for a while. I'm so sorry. I'm going to find yours right now." Okay, let's read it. Oh my gosh. She's typing. She said, "Hi Allison, I would be honored to recommend you a book. Thank you so much for asking me, and it's so cool connecting with another follower of Christ. I have 3 recommendations. The first one is YA fiction, and it's The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. And then I would absolutely recommend tandem reading Leviticus 1 through 10 with Hebrews 5 after." Okay, period. I'm so sorry. I hope that this is not too much. It is definitely not. Thank you so much. All right. She was one of the persons, along with many others, I hoped would respond. Guys, also, I tagged Haley fam in my Instagram story and I said, "Hey, please check my DM." And she saw it, but she didn't respond back. I think she was filming a reading vlog and it was in the middle of like almost 12 a.m. So that's how come she probably didn't respond. Or she probably thought I was a fake spam account because I literally have almost no followers. So it's okay, Haley. Okay, we got 2 more responses. Oceana liked my comment. Oh my gosh, I love Oceana, guys. I read The Masterpiece by Francine Rivers because of her, and that book changed my life. So I'm so excited. She said, "Hi Allison, thanks for your message. INFJ unites." Okay, let me think of what to recommend. She said, "Oh yeah, I had forgotten that she was an INFJ like me." So cool. I said, "Thank you so much, please let me know." Celine responded, so let's check her. She said, "Hi Allison, I love this idea. I would definitely recommend The Holiness of God by R.C. Sproul. Okay, it's one of my favorites and I'm considering to reread it. Let me know if you like it." Ooh. So I'm just gonna wait for Oceana to get back to me and then we will continue. By the time you see the next clip, she has already texted me the book. Let's go. Hi guys, it is a few days later and I decided to give you an update on where I'm at. I went to Target and I was looking to buy The Inheritance Games and One True Loves, but I only found One True Loves. Guys, this was so unexpected, but we're here and we're gonna find the book. Alright, One True Loves, found one. Inheritance Games, Inheritance Games. I'm blind, guys. I can't see the Inheritance Games. Paradise.
Say yes to love me.
Is that BTS? No, I'm kidding. Guys, I only found one book, so I might just order it on Amazon. So I decided to just purchase The Inheritance Games on Amazon, as well as the other book that was recommended to me by Celine. I think it's called The Holiness of God. I won't give my full review until I finish, because I know that if I give a review during certain takes or certain portions of the chapter, I will just ramble off. So I'd rather just give a concise little review. Guys, I was watching Gilmore Girls when I heard a knock and the books came. I just opened The Holiness of God. I love how it smells. It smells like new. But I'm glad that we have 2 physical books, 3 with the other one. Hi guys, it is much later and I have actually finished reading the first book. Now I never mentioned the book that I read, but the first book that I did read was Finding Lady Enderly by Joanna Davidson Politano. I actually finished reading it last night and so I was like, let me jot down some notes. I read the first book on my Kindle. The next book I will be reading is in physical and it is going to be The Holiness of God. Reading is so fun and I'm sure that if you love to read, you know how it feels. I'm probably going to go back and forth with e-copy and physical. I rate Finding Lady Enderly a 4.5 out of 5. At first, not gonna lie, when I was first reading it, I was not liking it. And the reason for that is because it is a very slow book, and you really gotta sit on it. You have to have patience for it. I wouldn't say it's a book that you would read in one night. It's a book that you definitely read little by little over time. So there's definitely a slow burn there. It is a historical romance fiction. One of the negatives I would say about this book is just how slow burn it was. But you know, for many, that's what a lot of people like. For me, I was not used to reading slow paced books. So it was a little hard to pick up the pace, but I eventually got there, of course. That would be the first thing. The second thing, which is not really a bad thing, but for me kind of is, this book was a very specific and detailed book. Now, many of you guys who love fantasy, it's not a problem for you guys. Obviously, when you read fantasy books, there's this whole made-up world. Even dystopian, right? I love dystopian books. I actually never really read a fantasy for that reason, that there's like a new world and you have to get accustomed to certain words, certain things. Just when things get super detailed and specific, it gets me a little overwhelmed just because I have to imagine it. I'm someone who loves imagining things, don't get me wrong, but I've never been just slapped on with so many things in my life. I didn't know what to make of this story. Like I had no idea what world I was going to create in my head. So I'm that type of person. I really had to imagine it, especially since this was like in the Regency era. I really had to imagine the gowns. I had to imagine the palace. This book talked so much about the inside and the decor. I really had to get my brain working, and I wasn't used to it. But honestly, I love it because it was kind of like a challenge. And after I did come up with a place in my head, a scenario, it felt like a whole movie. I was like, why isn't this a movie? Because this is really good. I would never have seen myself reading books that are like Pride and Prejudice. This book was kind of like that. You know how Pride and Prejudice is super detailed. There's so much information happening. Slow burn. Things like that. I would have never imagined myself reading a book kind of like that, and it is very similar in that sense. Now, the third thing that I really did not enjoy in the beginning was the point of view. So I'm someone who loves organization, and not saying that this book is super disorganized. I read books where there's his point of view, one chapter, her point of view, another chapter. I'm not used to point of views changing from third person to first person to second person all the time, all at once in one chapter. And I noticed that when I was reading that was happening, I caught on it. In the beginning, I was confused. I'm like, wait, what? What's happening? Who's talking? What's going on in here? Because the point of views would change all the time. Like literally, Lady enderly would talk. Next thing you know, a butler's point of view comes on and he goes, oh, she, this, that. I'm like, what? It's probably a me problem. But guess what? I learned, I adapted, and I eventually got used to it. And it was actually pretty nice, like not gonna lie. Honestly, this is why I love when you guys give me book recommendations, because it challenges me. One of the things I loved about the book was the plot twist. Oh my gosh. I'm not gonna spoil it for you guys, but I did not expect that. Like, I knew how it was gonna end, kind of. Like, I was expecting something to happen, but I did not expect what happened to happen. I was like, what? Next thing, before I get ahead of myself, I love how it was super motivational. I forgot to mention it's also a religious book. It brings up God and how Lady enderly's kind of finding her identity and how to find her identity through Christ. The author just put references of God in the most perfect places. It wasn't suddenly or abruptly like, oh, let me just add a God reference here. No, it was done in such a beautiful way, and I really loved how motivational each and every chapter was. It definitely touched my heart, as well as I love the book references and little notes that Lady enderly would leave. I'm not gonna spoil. That's all I'm gonna say before I say anything else. And last but not least, I would say the plotline overall was a really great one. It was nothing that I have read before, and for it to be a Christian book as well, it was super good. I could literally see this in mainstream. Like, this is a type of book that could definitely make it out there if you really put it in the right hands. I don't know why people aren't talking about it, because it was actually really great. a little bit difficult in the beginning to get into, but definitely worth it. So I did mention this in like previous book videos, but anything 3 and under I wouldn't recommend to anyone, or I wouldn't read it again. Anything that's 4 and up, I would definitely read it again, and I would definitely recommend it to someone. I'm gonna go now and read The Holiness of God. I'm super excited to read it. Anything that's biblical or inspirational or anything that gives advice, I love to annotate, so I will definitely catch myself annotating this book. So I'll see you soon. It took me a whole month to finish reading this book. When I first got it, I was like, oh, I'm gonna finish this in a week, and I didn't. And that's how you know that the flesh don't want nothing to do with the Lord. I had to really discipline myself. The funny part is that I actually enjoyed and I loved this book. So isn't it crazy how every single time I would open it, I'd be like, it's like so boring, because that's what your flesh says. But the spirit always yearns for more, you know, like it wants more and is willing. So there you go. This is your sign to discipline yourself into reading a biblical book. I have a lot to say about this book, and so let's just dive right in. The Holiness of God by R.C. Sproul. I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. I annotated this book like the whole way through. It's annotated. Let me talk about what makes this book so good, what makes this book 5 out of 5 stars. So number 1, what I enjoyed about this book is the reflection questions. There should be a type of reflectionism happening after you read such a deep, thoughtful book. At the end of each chapter, you'd have these reflection questions, and you would answer them, you would talk to the Lord about it, you would journal it down, whatever it is that you do to reflect. The second thing I loved about the book was how it had in-depth explaining with definitions and scripture. Whenever the author would state something, he would always back it up with scripture, facts, with definitions. He would just explain everything in a way that I could understand and anyone who is not a believer could understand. And whoa, my raspiness just kicked in. The third thing, which is kind of similar but different, is the analogies that he would add. It just makes situations feel more real and present during, you know, the current times. I love when people tell me stories, testimonies. The fourth reason why I loved it so much is because it evoked such an emotional and meaningful response. It's so crazy when a book feels so attached to you, so personal to you, and like you feel that connection towards something. That's how I felt reading this book. Now, if you're an unbeliever and you kind of are open to reading, you know, spiritual / Christian books, it is a guide to get to know who God is before you get to know who Jesus is. I really love that, and I'm so grateful for Celine. This was an awesome pick for me because even as a Christian all my life, I've struggled. I was like, you know, in the Bible, God seems just like so angry, like he wants justice. I would love to see God in a different aspect, because when I would think of Jesus, I would think, oh my God, Jesus is so lovingful, he's merciful. But then when I would read the Old Testament about God, I was like, I wanna understand you as much as I kind of understand Jesus, but at the same time, I heard someone say that you aren't meant to understand God, because the moment that you understand God, he stops being God, because God is not meant to be understood. I was like, ooh, that's so true. Or even someone mentioned too, like the moment you start saying, if God were good, if God had love in his heart, he would. The moment you start saying things like that, you start creating your own God in your head. And that, I think, is one of the biggest problems now today, because they justify who God should be based on their own humane, sinful standard, and God is just perfect. Something that I really enjoyed reading, I mean, there were so many powerful quotes, but in page 195, it states, it was Dostoevsky who declared that if there is no God, then all things are permissible. He understood that without the highest good, there can be no good at all, because all goods are measured against the ultimate standard of God's goodness. So in other words, the law has been written in our hearts. Honor your father and mother. Don't kill. Don't steal. love your neighbor how you love yourself. When you have that guilt feeling, or you feel that conviction, that's because the law has been written in our hearts, and everything that's good is measured because of God's standards. So then when people start saying, if I were God, I would do this better. No, because that's the thing. You aren't God. We as humans, as the creations of the Creator, are meant to abide by God's standards. So I hope that made a little bit of sense. I don't want to get too much into the, Christian talk. The final and fifth thing, not only does this book allow you to get to know who God was before you got to know God in human form, which is Jesus, this book proves how Jesus is God. You probably have your own religious beliefs. I know that there's so many backgrounds watching my videos right now. If you're watching, you have to understand that you also have to respect my beliefs, and I should be able to say that I believe Jesus is God, and everything just connected and aligned. Everything just made sense. Like, there was no contradiction in here. I will definitely probably pick up more R.C. Sproul books because this was so interesting and very much needed. Oh my gosh, it says over 250,000 sold. Wow. And I love how this book smells. Like, if you order it on Amazon, it smells so good. So if you love the smell of books, this is the one for you. Guys, I'm gonna go check YouTube. I had asked you guys in the community to help me choose the book that I was gonna read next. Okay, so I said help me choose what book to read next, except it's a secret until it's not. I put book number 1, A Sword, which would be The Inheritance Games. And then book number 2, I put A Heart, which stood for One True Loves. And then the last one, it's on Kindle. I chose a lipstick emoji, and it's All Manner of Things. So it looks like I'm going to be reading The Inheritance Games. Honestly, I think that's cool how you guys are helping me choose the book to read next. It's a fantasy book. Remember how I mentioned earlier in this video, I never read a fantasy book ever? This is going to be my first fantasy book. And I'm scared I'm not going to be able to enjoy it. But the title is just so cool. And it's a series, right? Ashlyn recommended it. And she also added Leviticus 1 through 10 and Hebrews 5 in the picture. So it'll be cool to read this and then read some Bible chapters as well too. I'll be back with the review. I am currently in a study room. I'm halfway done with the book. What? Whoa, hold up. I just finished. And I think the reason why that was is because the chapters are literally so short. And so I was like, what the heck? I finished a chapter. Let me go to the next. Let me go to the next. Let me go to the next. It worked on me. And I thought that this was one of the most coolest, entertaining books ever. Now, maybe I'm biased. I just never read a fantasy book, so I'm holding this to a standard, but I rate this book 5 out of 5 stars. And I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about it. Some people say that they leave things unexplained, but personally to me, I did not question how things ended. Of course, it ended in a cliffhanger, but this is a series, so I'm expecting it to end in a cliffhanger. I mean, we have the Hawthorne Legacy and then the Final Gambit, and I think there's another one coming out too. Now, if I had this in my Kindle, I would have definitely highlighted the heck out of this book because there's so many interesting parts. I would have highlighted all the letters, the games, and the riddles. I think that was super fun. I would normally go into detail about what the book is about, but I miscalculated how long this video is going to be. I definitely recommend this book. It gave me the Vampire Diaries / Knives Out vibes in the best way possible. It gave me TVD vibes because there are 2 main brothers. It's kind of like a love triangle-ish. One of them reminds me of Stefan, the other reminds me of Damon. Another reason why it reminds me of TVD is because there's always a house, the Lockwood house, the Salvatore house, and there's the main house in this as well. And all of them are there most of the time. So that's a comment reminding me of that. And this is also a little bit of fantasy because there's a lot of secret doorways. It just gave me Mystic Fall vibes. This reminded me of Knives Out, specifically Glass Onion. If I'm correct, Glass Onion dealt with a lot of mystery and suspense. That's all I'm gonna say, because then it'll be like me rambling. But let me give you my favorite parts of the book, because it's 5 out of 5 stars. I won't necessarily go into like the bad parts of it. Surprisingly, I'm satisfied with how it turned out. There wasn't any point in time where I was like, oh, I wish this would happen, I wish it was like this. No, I was like reading and I was like, oh my gosh, what an amazing point, author. Slay. She killed this book. It's not easy to write a book like this, especially with games and riddles. I think it was amazing. It kind of reminded me of like dystopian too, in a way. Dystopian is different from fantasy, but it just reminded me of that world where there's power and someone gets chosen, you know. So the number one thing that I wrote for giving it a 5-star is I like the idea of just a typical normal girl getting chosen to do something or be part of something great. It just shows how you are special, but you don't realize how special you are until you get challenged. I also really enjoyed the flashbacks with her mom. I don't know if you know this, but my favorite series of all time is the Divergent series. I only watched the film. I just don't want to read the books and then be so disappointed on how that ends, because the movies changed the ending and I love how the movies ended it. Divergent also has flashbacks with Triss's mom. That's the main character there. I just love that. I love like little memories and little flashbacks. I think that's amazing, especially in a book like this where you are chosen and you have to realize who you are and you have to dig deep in all that memory. I don't have vocabulary, it seems, because I keep saying cool, awesome, great. Next, I enjoyed the romance between the brothers. When I first got to know the two main brothers that would be a part of the romance, Grayson and Jameson. I don't think that's a spoiler because it's literally in the back of the book. But when I first got to know them, I was like, okay, but who's gonna be like the one for her? I don't know if I'm team Grayson or team Jameson yet, but I am a Jeremiah and Stephen girl, and so I'm probably team Jameson, because you're saying that if you chose Jameson, you're a Stephen and Jeremiah girl. I saw it on TikTok and I was thinking that too. And if you chose Grayson, you're a Damon and Conrad girl. So I think I have my answer now. The most important part about why I love this book is because the games. Now when I read the inheritance games, I was like, oh, they're just gonna fight to win like a throne or something. But absolutely not. That's not what it's about. There's actually like riddles in games in this book, and all the brothers and Avery are obsessed with games, and this house is filled with mysterious passageways, mysterious rooms. This house is a game in itself. Last but not least, I just enjoyed this book because the characters were very tolerable. Now, I'm not saying I loved every single character, because there were a few that got on my nerves, but in a healthy way. I was kicking my feet, screaming, giggling, everything, all the emotions. And I read half of it at school, so you can just imagine people staring at me like, I might buy this series. Let me know, comment down below if you want me to do a whole reaction video of reading the series, because I will literally go more in depth about this book if you want me to. Now I'm going to go read Leviticus and Hebrews because it was supposed to go along with this book, and I actually was going to read like part of it in between the book. I got distracted, as you can see. We're gonna read it now. I finished reading Leviticus 1 through 10 and then Hebrews 5. At first I was like, I wonder why Ashton recommended Leviticus 1 through 10. It's about sacrifices and how to make the most holiest sacrifices, and they had to be perfect. It talked about Moses, Aaron and his sons. It was very, very interesting. I'll try not to quote too much because then this video is going to be like the longest video ever. When I got to Hebrews 5, I was like, I wonder how this is going to correlate with what I just read, because she couldn't have just given me like 2 random chapters, you know? I started reading Hebrews 5 and I was so shocked, guys. I was literally about to cry because of how sad it was. Not sad in like, oh, it's sad, but it's like, it was sad in the way that he really fought for us. By he, I mean Jesus. We are just so undeserving of his love, and yet he chooses to give it to us anyway. Thanks, Ashton, for recommending it. And when I was also reading Leviticus, I thought about the holiness of God, the book that I just finished reading. There's a part that mentions Aaron's sons actually, and why everything happened the way it happened. So I thought that was interesting how just everything came back together. Guys, I've been feeling not my best, and it's not even because I'm not wearing glasses right now. It's not because I'm not wearing makeup. Did you know there's like 4 phases? Your period, follicular, ovulatory, and luteal. And now my fingers not going up as I'm counting. Anyways, the luteal phase is like the last phase. Your hormones are like starting to get back to normal. And so that's a calm like you feel everywhere. Like once you finish your period, like you kind of feel stressed, you feel anxious, you feel insecure. And I'm at that stage right now. One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I rated this book 4 out of 5. And honestly, guys, I'm not gonna lie to you because I really want to give you my genuine reaction. I was going to rate this like in the 3s because I wasn't satisfied with the ending. And I'm gonna give you my reasons why. I might spoil a little bit towards the end. I actually ended up like kind of highlighting a little bit in this book. Really comment down below what your favorite highlighters are. This looks like I just took a crayon and colored the page. Like it didn't look cute. So to start off, I personally don't like love triangles. I know, and it's crazy because half of the books I read or half of the books people recommend to me are love triangles. It just gets so confusing because personally I don't like choosing. Like I like it when there's only one lead, you know, when there's only one person for you. So if there is a love triangle, I kind of just want it to be where it's like the protagonist does not pick or choose. Kind of want it to be neutral. Like for the inheritance games, the focus for the book was never about who she was gonna pick. I ended up choosing a favorite. Like, of course, I'm always gonna have a bias, right? But I just feel so bad for the other guy if he deserves to feel bad for. No, because if the guy was toxic, if he was horrible, then I'd be like, bye. But if like they were genuine, I would honestly feel so bad. When I first looked at it, like when I first judged it by the cover, I thought, oh my gosh, this is totally gonna be a rom-com. I also saw that it was a movie. I don't know if I want to watch the movie, but because I saw that it was a movie and I saw who the characters were, I was like, I could put a face to the characters now. I guess I was kind of picturing it to be like YA, but this is not YA. This is an adult book, so I get it. To add on, as soon as I started reading the book, I knew that the book had its bias. You know when you're reading those books and you know the author just kind of puts more details on a specific guy, or when a meet cute for a guy is just like a little bit better. I was like, okay, I see what you're doing. They're gonna end up together, basically. I don't hate the guy that she picked. I loved the guy that she ended up picking. I wanted him from the start. That's a calm. I also gave it a 4. The two men in this book are just complete opposites. Jesse is like the bad / thrill type of guy, and then Sam is like the soft, friendly type of guy. It was really interesting. You know, you literally got 2 whole perspectives. There were a lot of closed door scenes in this book. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I personally don't like spicy books. And even though this book was not spicy, right? It was closed door. I just don't like how the book threw those spicy scenes like everywhere. So this is where I'm about to spoil. So if you don't want spoilers, you can skip now. Emma would have, you know, spicy scenes with Sam, spicy scenes with Jesse whenever they would meet. Like that's what it would be about most of the time. I value just deep conversations, true deep love for your soul more than your body, I guess I would say. Of course, I'm not saying that that's not love, because obviously when you meet your person, that's going to be a huge factor in your relationship, right? Maybe it's different because I'm not married and I don't have a partner, but I don't know. There's just something about a connection that's just on a deeper soul level that I kind of love. I just feel like when I was reading like the spicy scenes in the book, they're kind of idolizing those scenes and making it seem as though like that's one of the huge factors that's going to predict whether they're gonna end up or not. This is interesting, you know. She's definitely gonna have comparisons in that type of level. Honestly, I just don't like how she really had to try with both of them to decide who she was gonna end up with. Like, oh my gosh, that bothers me so much. Because like even though Sam gave her the freedom to explore who she wanted to end up with, in my eyes that's cheating, because what the heck? Sam literally has a good heart. I could never have that confidence or whatever it is that he had. The courage to let her go with like her ex and then explore whether or not she wants to continue that relationship. That takes a lot of guts. I was hoping she was gonna end up staying alone and choosing herself instead of choosing a person. I think that would have been great, but because of Sam's character, it wouldn't make sense, because Sam really loved her. He really fought for her. He was just not gonna give up on her, and she loved him too, so it would make sense for them to end up together. But if like, let's say Sam's character was a bit different and he like recognized his worth and he recognized that he deserves better, and he kind of moved on during the process of Emma trying to figure out her relationship with Jesse, it would have been good for them to all go on their own walk. I know I mostly gave kind of like negatives, but a positive of why it's up there is because it genuinely was very thought-provoking, and it helped me understand how you can have more than one love in your life, and how there can be multiple people from your life that are meant to be your soulmates, but just in different times. On page 172, there's a quote that says, "Every time you love everyone you love, the love is different, and you're different in it." On page 323, it says, "Maybe if you're the kind of person who's willing to give all of yourself, the kind of person who's willing to love with all of your heart, even though you've experienced just how much it can hurt, maybe you get lots of true loves, then maybe that's the gift you get for being brave." It really changed my mindset. I'm a person who's always believed that you only have one soulmate in your life and you're only meant to love one person. But this book made me realize that sometimes there could be more than one soulmate, and that doesn't mean that they weren't meant to happen. It just meant that they were meant to happen for that time. But now your story is shifting depending on where you are in your walk. There's also a type of bravery that goes with putting yourself out there. You feel like just giving up and that you will never find your person because your person was that person who you ended things with. In life, there's just going to be circumstances that's going to change you as a person, and no matter how much you want to go back to that old self, that old part of your life, you gotta accept that you're a different person now. So not only did it focus on this love triangle, this relationship, it kind of also focused on self-love as well. You really have to love yourself before you love someone else, or else it's gonna be very detrimental to your relationship. I applaud all these people in the book because they were really mature and they really understood that sometimes life happens and sometimes it won't always end up the way that you want it to, but you just gotta keep on going. The next book is All That Really Matters by Nicole Dees. It's been full cycle, guys. I finished all of the 5 books recommended to me, plus the scripture, and I thought, why not end it in the place where the video started? I've been working on this video for a while. I think I started it around August and I now finished it. Without further ado, let's get into the review. Oshina, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right now. Oshina, thank you so much for recommending me this book. I felt like you kind of knew me before giving me the book, but maybe it's just because you're an INFJ like me. I hope the mic doesn't pick up on the audio in the back. It is like 7 o'clock at my house, and around this time it is usually loud, and I'm trying my best. I guess I'm a perfectionist and I just want this video to be like dead quiet, but if I'm being realistic here, it might not happen. I hope it's not a bother to you guys. Just focus on my voice, I guess. The last time I filmed a reading vlog, I was so bothered because my mom had the laundry machine on and it ruined my video. Me trying to fix it, I used a noise reduction tool and it just distorted my voice and it was just not great and I was upset. This is what you're gonna get, okay? But anyways, I finished reading All That Matters by Nicole Dees, recommended by Oshina. Again, I'm very sorry, Oshina, that I pronounced your name wrong the first time. I don't know what was going on behind my head. You couldn't have picked a better book for me. I connected with this book and I just feel like it's an INFJ thing. I don't know, but I really want to get into this book. I rate this book 4 out of 5 stars. I'm picky with my books, you know? Not everyone's gonna have the same reaction. So I jotted down a few films that reminded me of this book. One being Falling for Christmas, 2022. He's All That, 2021. Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure, 2011. Just because this book does deal with a beauty influencer and like social media marketing and things like that. And whenever I see romances in that genre, I just think of the beauty queen, the popular girl who like makes videos online and like she thinks she's all that. That being said, when I first started the book, I was like dreading reading it. It was very slow, did not catch my attention at all. I was like, oh, this is just gonna be one of those other cringy books of the beauty influencer who's just gonna fall in love with a guy and then the guy is gonna change her and she's gonna recognize that life is more than just social media. So I was like, oh gosh, no. But it wasn't cringy at all. This book had me reflecting a lot. It deals with this organization who helps kids who age the foster system, and so they have a past, they have trauma, and Molly, the main character, the beauty queen. She first joined that organization as a stunt to build her platform and her picture. Meanwhile, she doesn't know that there's this leader, there's this guy who's very serious. But he's also soft with the kids, right? He's not gonna let no troll come in and ruin the organization, expose them. So he was like, all right, you want this job? Well, guess what? There's very strict policies here. You can't record. There is like no touching, no fighting. Everything that happens has to be run down by him first. And so it was very interesting to see that environment. The organization, it's kind of like an inn, basically, where they sleep there. It's a home for all the kids. Since they aged the foster system, you know, no one can really take them. So this organization kind of helps them get jobs, go to college. So there's very strict rules, obviously. They're all a family. They can't be together. They can't do shenanigans, something like that. There are mentors. And so Molly signed up to be a mentor for the girls. And so the guy, the leader, he was like, so what do you have to offer? Beauty? Like, no girls is going to want to learn about beauty. But she convinced him otherwise. And the girls actually did. She taught a class to these girls about how beauty and the way you present yourself is so important. When you go to apply for a job, obviously the way you come in dressed says a lot about you, the person that you are. She definitely taught about presence and confidence and being confident in what you say and what you wear and how you look. There's so much I could get into right now. I enjoyed seeing the character development that Molly had. This book is also a Christian book, so it mentions God in it, and the organization is also a Christian organization. So there's a lot of ministry work. I mean, Molly's brother works in a ministry. It's so funny because they mentioned Guatemala in there, and I was like, oh yeah, I love it. So yeah, like her parents are ministry people and her brother too, but she was never really, you know, in the walk. She kind of had her own personal struggles. So this book was an amazing book to see her progress in exploring her faith and that journey with God. It was very inspirational and comforting to me as a creator because I started off making beauty videos, and while that's still in my field, I'm kind of just exploring, you know, various topics. The guy's name in the book is Silas. He gives wonderful advice to Molly, and he really shows her how you can do so much with your social media platform. You can advocate for so many things. I loved how he said you can use your social media platform to share God's love. That meant a lot to me because I always try to include God in my videos. The romance was also amazing. It wasn't necessarily the focus. I would say the focus was definitely on the kids. I keep calling them kids because they don't really state the ages, but they're around 19. They're like teenagers. Molly and Silas had a very interesting, deep, soulful connection, which I admired a lot. They were always there for each other, uplifting each other. They all had personal struggles in the book, and I love when books talk about struggles. Having problems is such a real thing, and I love reading about it. I think I literally teared up reading a few things that happened in this book because it was so emotional. It just reminds me how blessed we really are, because not everyone has the life that you have right now, which could be like a normal life, you know, one that you could simply call boring or just average, but a lot of kids don't get to have that life. So what are you doing in here? So the overall message that I'm gonna state is God's timing is always better than ours, and we must learn to take a leap of faith. Alrighty guys, I hope I didn't ramble. Most importantly, I hope you enjoyed this video because I worked very hard on it. So comment down below if you want to see more videos like this, if you want to see a part 2, because I definitely have more YouTubers in the back of my head. I'm so nervous. My family is literally hearing me in the back. Introvert problems. Thank you, Celine. Thank you, Celestria. Thank you, Ashlyn. Thank you, Oshina. And thank you, Jess, for the recommendations. Keep doing God's work. Thank you for the amazing books that you guys recommended to me. I promise that I did enjoy reading them, so don't feel bad if I said something negative about them.